All right, good Sunday to everybody. I guess this is what they call third time's the charm. Anyway, what I wanted to do is discuss about this guy. At least this is part of what the discussion I wanted to go through in this live stream and get some opinions of what other people think about this. This guy's name is Robert W. Malone. It says here Robert Wallace Malone, born in 1959, is an American psychiatrist, biochemist. His early work focused on mRNA technology, pharmaceuticals, repurposing research during the pandemic, which recently happened, or in this case, the planned pandemic. Um, Malone has prompted they're saying he prompted misinformation about the safety and effects of C19, but something about this just bugs me because there was a video that was made. I think it was a radio broadcast, and I can't remember where I found it on YouTube. This was a long time ago. It involved something that was happening with. I think it was happening in. I don't think it was. I don't know if it was Wuhan or whatever the stuff was being developed at, where the information leaked out at. But this guy, he called the same thing C19, and then before long, now we have a pandemic known as COVID-19. But this literally happened at least 4 or 5, or maybe even 6 years before this whole thing actually happened. So what this guy was going through was that whatever it was they were developing, it involved insects, right? It involved bugs to where they would practically infect the human body, be able to reproduce, and be able to create various different structures that seem very unusual. Now, you see a lot of technology that's coming out, right? A lot of this brain interface technology. Well, who were the subjects who they tested this stuff out on, and were these even willing subjects? Is the question. Some of the other things as well could also be, questioned about as far as the safety of a lot of these things. The reason why that's also a key into this discussion is because, well, when you have technology that exists to where a person can control it with the human mind, it's possible for the reverse effects to also occur. Meaning, as well as you can have the human mind controlling a machine, it's almost as if you can have a machine controlling the human mind. It's possible. But to get back on the subject, in case you guys are wondering, I was meaning to show this before. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it clearly, but I'll try to show it as best as I can. Show it from that angle. I'm gonna scroll down. It should be pretty obvious to make out what this thing says. But yeah. So technically the media is censoring what Mr. Malone is talking about, right? So this is the case. This is a guy who was involved with making this stuff, or he was practically the head of everything when it came to its development. Most folks say that he was practically the inventor. So if a person who invented something is saying that it's dangerous, but the media and other folks are censoring it, what does that tell you? They preach about a lot of safety, but does that really say that they actually are looking out for your safety? A lot of people have uncovered that there's been a lot of corruption going on lately. A lot. And the more farther down you get down to it, it just starts to become more and more and more obvious that there's some shady dealings going on. You've got hired perpetrators, you've got hired crisis actors to boot, then you've got also actual video evidence of people admitting to hiring and training folks to act in such fashions. So whenever certain crucial information that's more damaging to the actual public gets leaked out, you best believe they're going to have hired perpetrators to also basically discredit or at least bombard the truth with propaganda. So people, they wouldn't know which direction or which side to believe. They're going to end up looking through many different methods, and they'll only be lucky enough if they do find the truth. I suspect that the amount of exposure this whole thing is getting to the point to where they can't keep a lid on it anymore. Too many folks are finding out about this, and let me tell you, from what I've seen, nobody wants to get themselves involved with these programs that are basically setting out to do this deceitful behavior, and I'm gonna tell you why. Once this stuff gets fully realized, and it should have already been fully realized, what's going to happen is more folks are going to be able to recognize this behavior when it happens. So to give you a prime example, there was another person who was a TI, and from what he mentioned in one of his videos, he goes out of town into a whole other country, but the social norm there is so different from the states of the US that the awkward, obnoxious behavior that's meant to basically, trigger, and it's always up with repetition. And the sole purpose is that of that behavior is always going to be around, basically around the same thing, right? Folks weren't used to that kind of stuff, and they just didn't let it slide. So that person got called out immediately, and they were forced to back off. It's gonna get to a point when people are gonna start recognizing this stuff because at first they didn't know, but now they're starting to understand certain ins and outs of things because it's happening on too much of a scale. To give you a prime example as to what I'm getting at, some of these things have, some of these types of characters have been involved in key element events, such as a lot of the heinous stuff that happened down in New York. Now, along with all of that, let's say certain situations where people were being forced to get the testings or the jabs or whatever, right? Now the city of New York is facing massive amounts of lawsuits, and they know it because of this type of behavior. And don't think that this stuff isn't backfiring on the people involved, because it isn't just there. The corruption is overly getting exposed left and right. But the thing is, the media is not going to try to publicize any of this. So trying to go to them for any truth, you ain't gonna find it. It's only when the real truth gets so much attention, too much, in fact, that the media will even start to. The only reason why they'll even cover it is a point to either discredit the truth or to at least try to minimize the amount of impact that it has, right? With some basically some lame excuse that they would have. So just understand, for most folks who don't realize this, what we're dealing with is a systematical structure where people in power who are having other folks in power orchestrate events, getting folks recruited and trained to basically hide these treasonous crimes that are happening, and it doesn't mean well for the public. And you see, what they're mainly depending upon is this. They depend upon people to be systematically lazy. They want you to look at an easier way of getting ahead in life without actually asking questions about the narrative of how, obviously it should be pretty, suspicious as far as to how easy it is as far as things are concerned. But in the long stick of everything, the people who they hire are the ones sticking their necks out for this program, right? So if stuff really gets out of hand, who's going to be the one to sit there and basically take the fault? It ain't going to be the people hiding in the shadows, because they're going to leave. is going to be the people who they put out in the field. They're the ones who get the blame. They're the ones who basically get all that to happen, while the other folks pretend like nothing ever even happened. They didn't have any involvement. And it's been a systematical scapegoat structure like that for so long. This is why we keep seeing the repetitive acts of corruption. Some folks may think it's the people that's in the limelight who you can see on the stage and on the platforms and stuff like that, right? People who speak, but it ain't them. It's people pulling the strings from behind the scenes that are mainly responsible. You know, that person who they put out there for people to see, that's just someone for you to either push the blame on, or someone meant to basically fill the role of the quote unquote hero. I want to make this clear, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have not voted for either side. I don't, because I don't believe that either side has ever been in true favor of any of the people. I just don't believe it. Some people are going to disagree. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. But if we had really gotten anywhere, we would have already seen some pretty good results. And honestly, it hasn't been much. I'm going to find some videos for today as well. Preferably trying to get back on track with what this guy was saying. I'm afraid that I could watch this clip from Fox News. Apparently, I don't know if I don't think I'll get a copyright from that. This counts more of like a reaction or so, and then I'm just gonna probably bring key points out as we go. 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna want anything too out there to probably be spoke about. So we can only go from there and assess with that. There's a good chance this video might get. See if I can turn the volume up on this. Oh wait, did I actually hold up? I think I know what I did. I had at least 2 live streams, one from the last time I did a stream and one for now. I must have accidentally pushed the Saturday one by mistake. Sorry, my apologies on that. All right, let's see if I can get this to play again.
Meanwhile, Russia ramping up its war on Ukraine, now launching cyber attacks against the Ukrainian government websites and others. This is the White House denies report that President Biden has been briefed on offensive cyber attack.
Wait, that's not the right one. Looks like it went over to something else. Let's see if it'll let me play this video.
So what explains those numbers? This appears to be happening. Why is it happening?
Before I go any further, I want to go ahead and announce something. The third party is sending people to the area. They are doing that right now. So if you guys hear anybody acting awkwardly weird, see anything unusual, that's all it is. Someone's orchestrating these people to do what they're doing, and that's just all it is. Am I going to react to it? Am I going to... No, I'm not. I'm going to ignore them and continue on with the stream as planned. But for anyone new who doesn't know too much about that, that's just what it is. Someone's just intentionally sending people to act out because apparently it's just a distraction. Man, I need to find that video. It's there somewhere. There you are.
So what explains those numbers? This appears to be happening. Why is it happening? Well, physician called Robert Malone tried to address that question recently in a podcast that was broadcast on YouTube. The YouTube immediately took it down. Now, they did this even though Dr. Robert Malone may be the single most qualified person on planet Earth to discuss this subject. Why? because he helped create the mRNA technology behind the COVID vaccine.
And that's my point. Why would they do that? Think about it. Why would they do that? They preach and preach about how this is for people's safety, but someone who actually aided into the development of that isn't allowed to speak ill of it when they see something that, just doesn't, that immediately isn't right. And it's just as he said, it's the person supposed to be the person who's the most qualified for it, right? Now, there's a very disturbing video after this that I'm going to let you all know. If you have kids, I'm going to tell you, get them the F out of the schools now, because I haven't looked farther into this. I plan on looking farther into it because here's the deal. The schools, during the shutdown phase when everybody was forced to stay indoors, it's been, this is, I want to count it as a rumor. I don't know if it's facts, but I wouldn't doubt if this is the truth. It's been word out, and word has gotten out that where there's been a lot of equipment that was installed in these schools and around the perimeters. Could be something linked to some sort of fiber optics or something like that. But at the same time, it's been found out, and this is just from a video from a Plain Truth 11, right? That there's been mothers and the kids have gotten samples from these schools out of the cafeteria, and it turns out these substances contain heavy metals. I don't know too much about it because, again, I haven't looked into it. But, if I was a parent, I would be damn concerned about something like that. Now, the thing is, why I brought up the crisis actors and stuff before is because the fact that you got folks who are hired, you hear me, they are hired to show up. They are planted specifically in areas to do whatever dirty job that they were given. So if you see any of these people acting strangely, just understand this isn't just random. Someone put those people there. Someone had them there. There's a reason as to why whatever they're doing seems to be in conjunction with what you're doing when it's in your perception. So with that out of the way, let's get back on subject if I can.
We think he has a right to speak, Dr. Robert Malone. Doctor, thanks so much for coming on. In a way that's accessible to non-scientists, I hope you'll tell us, do you have concerns about these vaccines for people who aren't at great risk?
Yes. I think that one of my concerns are that the government is not being transparent with us about what those risks are. And so I'm of the opinion that people have the right to decide whether to accept vaccine or not, especially since these are experimental vaccines. This is a fundamental right having to do with clinical research ethics. And so my concern is that I know that there are risks, but we don't have access to the data, and the data haven't been captured rigorously enough so that we can accurately assess those risks. And therefore, for folks like your audience, we don't really have the information that we need to make a reasonable decision.
Here's a simple formula that most people use when they're trying to think about, should I take this or that pharmaceutical? Do the benefits likely outweigh the risks? So for the specific population, the largest population in America being forced to take the vaccines right now are college students. It's between 18 and 22. A huge number of them already had very few stats show died from COVID. For that population who's already had the virus, do the benefits outweigh the risks?
So I have a bias that the benefits probably don't outweigh the risks in that cohort, but unfortunately the risk-benefit analysis is not being done. So that's one of my other objections, is that we toss around these words risk-benefit analysis casually, as if it's a very deep science. It's not. Normally, at this stage, the CDC ACIP would have performed those risk-benefit analyses. They would need a database. and science-based. They're not right now. It's kind of a look at the sea winds, and that I really object to. So you asked me, do I think the risk-benefit ratio is appropriate for this age cohort? The truth is, I can't really say, but certainly I can say that the risk-benefit ratio for those 18 and below doesn't justify vaccines, and there's a pretty good chance that it doesn't justify vaccination in these very.
Hey, Scott, you just reminded me of something I was meaning to mention. If you guys haven't done this yet, you need to get some units to filter both the sink and your showers, because there's something that they're putting in the water supply that I don't think anybody knows. You see, this proves my point when I say that they're basically don't give a shit about even the people they hire, because it literally showcase itself whenever when you know what's going on. They have filters that you can get that filters out chlorine and all this other garbage that they put in this stuff. Try to invest into something like that, and I guarantee you will actually feel a difference. I had no idea that all the garbage they were putting in that water, man. I had no idea. And then you got heavy metals on top of that too. So definitely look into getting one of those, because that'll help you out in the long run.
For young adults. It's hard to believe that anybody would push universal vaccination on a country of 340 million people without getting the data you say don't exist. How did no one think to do that?
I think that what we have is a structural problem in how the databases were built and how they're being analyzed. My understanding from colleagues inside the FDA is that the CDC is overwhelmed. They aren't even processing.
Okay, I'm just going to call this out before it happens. I predict there's going to be an event of distraction. They're planning it out now, so let's just see what's going to happen next. If I'm right, don't be shocked if there's some disruptive attempt that's going to basically take place. Gives and push and play already.
So what do you keep informed?
Yes, I think that one of my concerns are that the government is not being transparent with us about what the risks are, and so I'm of the opinion that people have the right to decide whether to accept vaccine or not, especially since these are experimental vaccines. This is a fundamental right having to do with research ethics. And so my concern is that I know that there are risks, but we don't have access to the data, and the data haven't been captured rigorously enough so that we can accurately assess those risks. And therefore, for folks like your audience, me, we don't really have the information that we need to make a reasonable decision.
Here's a simple formula that most people use when they're trying to think about, should I take this or that pharmaceutical? Do the benefits?
That's what they call divide and conquer. They'll feed into one side, and then in the end, once they have what they want, they'll just basically decide that they paid off to go fuck themselves. That's just obvious. But it's the way, like, it's the whole deceptive way that they've used to basically put people under a type of dysfunctional hypnosis, to where it's either making you more lazy or it's making you more susceptible, or should I say basically more blindful of the truth and more acceptable of delusion. So in most cases they got a person to want to have an easygoing way of life instead of basically putting in work to earn, you know, to actually earn a better living for themselves, right? People would rather take the easier way out than, than a way that a person would have to actually put in more work than usual. In some cases, you would probably think this is a smart idea, but it's the merit of what consists of the actions that actually takes place. A person who just sides with the majority because it's easier is a weak person. A person who even goes out of their way to make fun of, the literally, how some of these perpetrators, right? They would go out of their way and use scripted language to try to make someone else feel bad. That's another sign of weakness because that shows a lack of self-respect that they have for themselves. If you're going to go out of your way and do that, what kind of a role model are you basically representing to any of the kids you may or may not have? When people see that actually, that actually shows it itself on how a person is acting. I mean, sure, it's good to joke around and every now and then. That's understandable. But when you get right down to it, it really begs the question. It's to the point where this isn't those aren't the mindsets of adults. Those are the mindsets of basically children in adult bodies. Because, the childish like behavior goes with it. And much worse, you got some of these folks with kids of their own, and they're teaching this same stuff to their kids, right? So they go in and bring that behavior into the classroom, into the gym, into the cafeteria, and then you got to deal with it there. I can't imagine how some TI families out there must be dealing with this. I don't think they'll get into conversation about it, but honestly, I would not doubt if some of the shit that's happening to the parents isn't happening to the kids in the schools. I wouldn't doubt that at all, not in the slightest. And then it also, says a lot about the school's structured system too. The fact that certain behaviors get, happen and they just allow it to happen. I'm only speaking off of experience because I had this happen to me in the past, way long ago. But in the end, I realized that experience, I've learned to deal with folks like that. And one of the things I've learned is that, yeah, I see these people now, but, they're not going to be around 3 to 4 years from now. Probably they're going to move or they're going to move. Who knows what's going to happen? But in the end, should I show lack of, I mainly looked at it from my own perspective. Should I show a lack of respect for myself and, and act the way that they're acting out of some revenge plot? Or should I actually strive to be better than that? And that's what I learned. I learned to be better than that. I'm not going to become that of which is infected those people to be evil. I refuse. I simply refuse to act that way. I refuse to behave that way. It is beneath me. And in the end, it's the behavior. I'm not calling the actual person beneath me. I'm calling the behavior that's beneath me. Let's just make sure we get that clear. But I don't want to go too far off the subject. This stream is mainly supposed to be why is it that the person who developed this stuff is attempted to be in silence? Have created. Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. But anyway, let's get back onto the subject. The main subject was about Robert Malone. Why is it that they, why is it that a person in such a high position is being silenced, especially one who should very well know more about this stuff? So if this is one of the people who developed it, why is YouTube silencing this person? Why is Twitter silencing them? Why is the media silencing them? Why is that? But then at the same time, these are the same platforms representing other people who were not in this guy's position of developing this stuff, trying to say, no, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. That don't sound right. I don't know about anybody else, but to me, that just doesn't sound right at all, considering they don't have the training this guy has.
For that population, particularly those who already had the virus, do the benefits outweigh the risks.
So I have a bias that the benefits probably don't outweigh the risks in that cohort, but unfortunately, the risk-benefit analysis is not being done. So that's one of my other objections, is that we toss around these words risk-benefit analysis casually, yes, as if it's a very deep science. It's not. Normally, at this stage, the CDC ACIP would have performed those risk-benefit analyses. They would be data-based and science-based. They're not right now. It's kind of a little bit of the seat of the pants, and that I really object to. So you ask me, do I think the risk-benefit ratio is appropriate for this age cohort? The truth is, I can't really say, but certainly I can say that the risk-benefit ratio for those 18 below doesn't justify vaccines. And there's a pretty good chance that it doesn't justify vaccination in these very young adults.
It's hard to believe that anybody would push universal vaccination in the country without getting the data you said don't exist. How did no one think to do that?
It was designed that way.
I think that what we have is a structural problem in how the databases were built and how they're being analyzed. My understanding from colleagues inside the FDA is that the CDC is overwhelmed. They aren't even processing the data they have. And by the CDC's own admission in their recent MMWR report on safety and pregnancy, the vSafe database, which is the one that they hold internal, is so poor that they can't draw any definitive conclusions about whether or not these vaccines are safe in pregnancy. They believe they're generally safe, but the databases aren't sufficient to really demonstrate that. We're left in a position where we're waiting for data from places like Norway, Finland, Scandinavia, and hopefully from Israel to back up our decisions in public.
Oh, hey, Matrix. Oh, wait, no, that's TI Live. Yeah, that's TI Live. I guess you changed your name, so when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute, is that Matrix Adjustment? But no, that's not Matrix Adjustment. That's TI Live. Okay. Hang on. Now I'm gonna go over to. I need to pause that. I would not doubt if they take this video down because of the content I'm about to cover on this. Okay, let's see, I think he has it underneath his shorts. It's somewhere around there. The lady, I can't seem to find it. It's somewhere around here. You gotta be kidding me. If you guys ever go to this guy's channel, A Plain Truthful 11, I would recommend you actually find out the name of this comedian because he is absolutely funny. The video underneath that channel is called "You Gotta Watch This in Your Face Comedy." So what he's doing is basically mocking the whole structure of how they got this whole thing set up, like from the masks to the vaccinations and all that other type of stuff, right? And he's making fun of how it doesn't make sense. You know, they make it seem like it's so dangerous, but then you're allowed to just take it, take the thing off when you're allowed to eat. You know, they're trying to say that, you got to have one on, but when it comes to the certain celebrities, governors, and even, the mayors, like, it doesn't apply to them, right? So it gets so out of hand. It's like, okay, the whole saying that, they want more for themselves and less for others starts to make more sense. And you could see it through these actions that are getting exposed. Don't get me wrong, I don't support the whole mask thing. I don't, because in the end of what it's actually doing, I'm not going to go into detail about it. But, it comes off as a really good example that folks are trying to push stuff on other people. So, it's Saturday live stream. Dan Gasman. I'll check that out later on. And I can't seem to find that video anywhere. I could have sworn he had a short on here somewhere where it was man. They either took it down or something happened. Well, I can't believe this. I cannot find it anywhere. What gives? This honestly doesn't surprise me though. They've been taking this guy's channel down, and since it's called A Plain Truth 11, this means that I'm guessing, I'm only making an assumption here and I could be wrong, but I'm guessing he has had over 10 channels. They've done this to A Plain Truth. They've done this to, I don't know if they've done this to Jeff Censored or not. I don't know. I think they have. It was him too. And they've also been doing this to A Call for an Uprising. It seems like they have this unusual amount of censorship that's just triggering around to certain people. But, as you can see, they're not giving up. They're just making new channels, producing more and more content. Yeah, exactly. They, when it comes to that, yeah, they, it's still going on. My apologies for that train. It's one nearby, but that should be blatantly obvious. Okay, I can't seem to find that video, so what video was it with that pastor? See if I can find it. Okay, so it wasn't this one. Just give me a second. I gotta. Okay, yeah, there it is. This is a. See if he got a link to the actual video itself. Hopefully he does. Yep, he does. Awesome.
Our nation.
Now this is a pastor who's also talking about a lot of the stuff that's going on. To make a long story short, I'm still going to play the video for you guys. What's going on is technically the government's using taxpayer money, bringing illegal immigrants into the states, and then these people are not getting tested, no mask, none of that, and then they're basically being housed and put in motels throughout just about almost every state, right? And again, this is where it doesn't make sense because these are the same folks preaching. You see where I'm getting at with this, right? The same folks who are preaching about safety, clearly their intentions are not about safety when you actually get right down to the nitty-gritty of it all. It's not about that. It's just about control. And they're using, on one hand, they're using an excuse of which they're perpetuating, on the other hand, of which they're instigating. So they're pandering out excuses for a solution. Well, actually, no, I take that back. They're creating excuses for a solution on one hand, under the, behind the scenes. And with the other hand, they're pandering out solutions that are only beneficial to themselves, less beneficial to the people. Yeah, more protection, more safety, but it's really just handing over power over to those who do not mean well for people at all. So anyway, I'm done ranting. I'm gonna go ahead and just play this video so you guys can hear what this pastor has to say.
Nation is going mad. I hope y'all like y'all's president. Because in a year's time, he screwed the whole nation up. I ain't I told you, I don't care how many blind eyes open if I say something like that. With my blind eye, I'm out of here. He must be a Republican. You know, it took that man 1 year to screw the whole country up. A year. I mean, don't be looking at me like, no, our nation's gone backwards. A year ago, you were paying $2 a gallon for gas. Yeah, let's take it where you can relate. And you're paying almost $4 now because
Oh, I meant to turn it down a bit, not to actually stop the video. Hang on. I wanted to pause it because I wanted to show this again. There was no one in the room the last time, but here's the thing. And it's a really good idea too. If they want to send folks to act out like crisis actors and stuff, right? Well, why not do this and basically advertise the truth? Check out what my shirt says. Make stalking illegal again. So when they send these agents out and about into the area and they start acting out, this is practically advertising the exact behavior of which those perpetrators are doing. They're not just randomly there. No, they were placed there. They're not obviously minding their own business because their behavior is so consistent. You know, it repetitively is going on and it's happening within a person's perception, which means, oh, thank you, which means it was meant to happen. So when they act out and people see the shirt, that's basically advertising, hey, you know, that person who basically claims to know, quote unquote, a lot about me, that person right there, sir or madam, is a stalker. Yeah. So am I going to stop them from advertising their behavior and making it obvious? No. Let them give themselves away. Let them do that. Go ahead and let them do that.
because of his decisions. Yeah, it's his decision. 2 million people have crossed our borders from Mexico. Now he getting political.
Oh, wait a minute. Fix that. Okay, there.
Kingdom. Screwed it up. You got, and these people coming in they don't get COVID tests. And they aren't forced to get vaccinated. And they put on airplanes. Read your paper. No, they ain't gonna put this in your paper. They don't report this. But they are flying people who cross the border illegally. Your government is flying them to cities across the United States and putting them up in hotels and paying for them with your money. Only took a year to screw the country up. Just took a year. Just took a year. Yeah, he must be a Trump supporter. No, I believe. Yep. In a year's time, men who say they women are competing on the college level in women's sports and depriving women who have been working all their lives to be the best woman in their sport the ability to be that, because this man won't be a girl now. A year. One. I got here by introducing the fact that the world is being, Satan has released a spirit of deception. He has released it. Black folks don't like me talking about this. They can't stand it when I talk about it. It was all I could do when the congressman came here.
Now, I told somebody to tell it me. Now, I'm going to let you speak, but don't you get up here and talk about politics. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that the Voting Rights Act is passed. It was all I could do. And the Holy Spirit checked me because I was coming up. I was going to straighten that dude out. Because you ain't telling folks the truth. This government has people believing that people are deprived of the opportunity to vote. Because they're saying these red states is trying to keep our people from voting. Hogwash! You should have identification to vote. You shouldn't just be able to vote without being identified as a citizen and a resident of the area that you live in. It's wrong. We're going to get that voting right. We're going to forcefully advance. I'm just sitting in my chair. Tell people the truth. They ain't giving people opportunity to vote. You look at the states who pass these laws that are considered racist. They have more polling sites, longer voting hours. Be quiet on me. It's okay. You shall know the, and the shall set you. Because see, if we don't require people to have valid identification, anybody can vote. And if we give them some money, if we keep giving out free money, ain't no way them people gonna want us out of office. I'm for truth. I ain't for nonsense. I ain't a brainwashed Negro. God gave me a brain. And I'm not a sheep. Amen. And they telling you to do one thing and they doing something different. If you watch the Super Bowl, California got the strictest restrictions, like mask mandates for indoors. None of the celebrities had on masks. The governor of California almost a year ago, that dude was out during real tough times of COVID. He was out at a fancy restaurant with all his buddies, didn't have on a mask. But you better wear one because we think for you. We think for you. You ain't smart enough to think for yourself. Everybody said, well, you shouldn't be so controversial. It's not. You ain't gonna shift from that kingdom to this kingdom holding on to delusion. You are not. And I'll say it, I don't care who like it, I don't give a rip. Surgeon General of the United States read an article this morning.
Yeah, about that, I got one solution for that, and I've been planning on doing this. It doesn't really even matter even if I announce it on here, because they probably already suspect I was going to do this anyway. Have you probably seen like the motorhomes, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying buy one because those things are extremely expensive. But what I was planning on doing was buying a moving truck and converting that into, the actual cargo space into a living space, to where I have a door that also leads not only from the driver's seat and the passenger seat, but also to the back of where the storage area is. I was planning on just basically setting something like that, because technically people do the same thing with vans, so why not do the same thing with the moving vehicle too, right? Because you got more space that way. Yeah, that too. gas for actual motorhomes is even tough even now. I can't imagine how bad that's hurting people right now. I just can't imagine that one. But at least with a moving truck, you're not really using as much. Yeah, box truck. Yeah, you're not using as much with that. But at the same time, I had planned on getting some surveillance equipment to where I can basically have a surrounded perimeter and also have some lights attached to the outside as well, so I can see what's going on. So at night, you're not going to be able to basically walk up there and those. I want to have the sensor lights. So if you walk up to that damn thing, it's going to flash, and your position is automatically going to be given away. Just unable to get the part. Yeah, that's when you in cases like that, it's really best to know how to work on vehicles on your own at that point, because you can't necessarily trust people in the I won't say all technicians, but I suspect because of the structural way that they went about this, I'd say if anybody's going to work on your vehicle, keep a hidden recorder just in case. Make sure that you at least keep one situation to where you're able to be present as they're doing it, because most folks will just have you sitting somewhere while they work on your vehicle and you're not able to see anything. Yeah, that's also a thing too, which is, the problem mainly with that is the fact that it's mainly the manufacturers. What do they call it? I guess like you would call it like the software programming. They created it to have backdoors for these operations because they are I hate to break it to a lot of people, but they are actually investing in this. No, I'm not kidding. They really are. So naturally, they would make it easier for them to get into that and for the surveillance network to track and trace. Now, in most cases, there is ways to undo this, but you got to have your move vulnerable in a vehicle. If we get protection and cameras, they will burn it down while masked. It's like they have to control the environment. All the vehicles overnight. The cameras have back. Yeah, that's true. One of the things I was trying to get at though is that if you are truly looking to get away from them, you got to keep everything in mind. I've talked about this before. You can use some of the methods SHP used in order to find their entire surveillance network, and you can map out and plan a route out. I would say print out what you found out throughout the entire town of which they have installed, and then you can narrow down your choices as an escape route. Almost every intersection is going to have a camera. If you get a vehicle, make sure you get it the same day. There is no wait time. You get it exactly there. It's best to get a brand new one because 9 times out of 10, it ain't going to be bugged. And don't, for the love of God, do not go looking around for dealerships on the phone, because that would just tip them off. It would. In most cases, there is ways to find bugs. If you're tech savvy enough, you could actually find this. And if the dealership is dumb enough to actually allow that to happen, you can have a huge ass lawsuit and get some good money out of that. So it's like even though they would seek to try to F around, it's like a double-bladed sword, right? Because like, as well as they're trying to do harm onto you, you can basically pull a reverse and do even worse upon them, because you can record as you're looking around when you first get the the piece of machinery and going like, what the F is this? Why is there a tracking device embedded in my equipment? What the heck is what is going on here, right? And what excuse are they going to have for that? Well, that you see, Scott, the thing about that, you can't decide that, how should I put this? It's not that everyone is involved, if that makes sense. Think about it. The geoengineering that's happening, everybody breathes that. The crap that they're, the crap that they're putting in the water system. This is why I said earlier, like, definitely get a filtration system for both the faucet and for both the sink and the shower, because whatever they're putting in that water is increasing these attacks in some way. It's definitely increasing it. Since I've invested money in getting since I've invested in getting these filters, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I felt a significant decrease in these attacks, a massive decrease since I put filters on stuff like that. The only other problematical thing is it's this food that's cooked, because that's still cooked with water that's been contaminated with stuff whatever they're doing. Other than that, I need to retrace my steps back on the subject I was on. If you are looking to get away from them, basically have a paper map, plan out your areas, and be wary of where there are cameras and checkpoints and stuff as that. Don't use debits or credit cards, because that can be tracked and traced. It's very problematic not to have a phone in some cases, but if you got it to where you can keep them not in it, to where they can't just get in there, then it should be okay. You can't see them because they make it known, but for all those that don't make it known that they're not like him or her, not showing themselves. Yeah, you got a point. Now remember, the other thing I was trying to tell you, that point I was trying to make across, keep in mind everybody is contaminated with this stuff, right? The geoengineering and stuff that they put in the water supply. Because they can turn this stuff on just about anybody, these weaponized systems and stuff. Let's say, to put it more simply, they do surveillance on you, but they're also doing surveillance of all the areas where you previously visited, where you're most commonly able to go, right? So they're doing advanced surveillance prior to as you're traveling, and then they're surveying who's in that area, and then since I believe it's scalar technology that allows them to see through walls, right? So they can use that. Let's say, people who are passing by are doing something very specific that is linked to your targeting, right? Well, they could be zapping that person and causing that reaction to take place at the same time that you're crossing paths with that person, giving you the idea that that person's involved, when in reality, they don't have any idea what's going on. That plays a part into the deceptive, the world is mass hypnotized. So basically that plays a part into the whole deceptive acts that they use against the target individual, because it mainly depends upon your own actions being played against you. This is where a lot of the crisis actors and a lot of the people that they put in place that spread lies, as well as play as false witness to fallacious testimony against you. This is exactly what this is. For instance, at an old job I worked at, right? I caught a woman, and she was filming. And the problem is, what she was doing was illegal, right? So she not only was filming with a personal phone, she did it in front of a camera as I was traversing down an aisle, just doing my job. I get that some folks do take pictures of product if there's damages and stuff like that, right? That's natural. But the problem with what she was doing, there's a wall right ahead of where she was aiming the camera at, and then there's me, who's all the way down the other side of the aisle, to where either one of those cameras could be pointing at, right? She could have been taking a photo of either one. But the point is the fact, what is she going to take a picture of a wall, and why? It makes more sense that she was taking a photograph of me, and I knew it was a setup. So she goes down the aisle, she makes a right-hand turn. I go down the aisle, I'm still in front of the camera, but I make a left-hand turn. And the first place I go to is the office. I talked to the supervisor, I reported what happened, and went straight to HR. What does this woman do when this whole thing happens? She makes a falsified claim, trying to say that I approached her aggressively. I knew it was a setup. I didn't go after her. I went right to the office and reported what happened. Because that is, I believe, even I think it was Project Veritas. They interviewed someone and caught footage of of a word that they use for folks that they set up like that, and it was called road dogging, if I'm not mistaken. They'll intentionally plant somebody out there to be a fake victim who's actually an actor in some devious plot in order to meet some sort of goal that they have in mind, whether it's to take somebody down or whoever knows what it is that they're trying to do. Well, yeah, I agree with you on that. I definitely do, but at the same time, I think it's more of them basically because it's because of the fact that people are also infected with this stuff, and considering that fact, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to emphasize any of the stuff that they're doing, but I'm looking at the fact that they're basically screwing over people who they hire. That's what I'm looking at. The fact that even with the people who they hire are in the area, but they're still doing geoengineering. Exactly. So, it really gets down on it to where like it just, it doesn't make much sense. How can people be loyal to a program that obviously doesn't give a fuck about them, right? It should be made pretty obvious. You got all this going on. Folks are trying to basically, I've literally played videos that talked about the truth about this stuff and what that is that they're doing. And I honestly think it's the programming. It's got to be the program because it's like it's going in one ear and out the other with some of these people. It's like they just don't process that information to understand. And some of the folks who I've talked to one-on-one before, I noticed some of the key tricks that they'll have prior to after I'm done talking to those people. They'll have probably someone who's like an agent or something walk in the direction and have a conversation with them, of which I won't even be present to it. I don't even know what they're talking about, but several hours later, the same person is back to the old tactics again. Dude, they even once had the gall to have this guy indoctrinate people into the stalking program before, right? I'm not going to say where it happened, but as soon as I was about to film, they immediately tried to get me out of the area, come out with some excuse. But the entire time it was happening, they were coming up with excuses to try to keep me there all the way up until, fuck it. If they're going to make it that easily, why not film it, right? So as soon as I ended up getting ready to do that, all of a sudden the script changed. They don't want me getting video evidence of the fact that they're recruiting people to do what they were doing. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I ranted on enough. Let's get back to the video.
Surgeon General of the United States double vaxxed with a booster with COVID. His whole family got it. Queen Elizabeth double vaxxed and boosted and got COVID. Well, we should trust the science.
Wait a minute. I think she died, dude. I think the queen died. She definitely did. But I'm wondering, like, what do they classify as the cause of death? That's what I'm wondering about. What do they classify that under? If anybody knows, please leave that answer in the comments. That'd be greatly appreciated.
Well, they won't get ass sick. Well, I didn't either. Oh, they're walking out on me now. That's good. I must be doing good. Okay. I really don't. I really don't. I don't.
Oh, wait. One of the things I've done is I've lined my clothes up with shungite. That's one of the things I've done. If I'm wearing a belt, it's got shungite on it. If I'm wearing a necklace, it's got shungite. The vest I'm wearing has shungite all through it. I just practically, even from my shoes, I've literally practically put it. I haven't put as much shungite as I possibly can, but I put enough to where even though I'm being shot with, directed energy, it's able to help diminish the effects over time. But one of the key factors, if you guys are using right frequencies to heal, you want to definitely, here's the order you should do this in, because you're going to achieve a lot of results if you do it this way. Use a right frequency for cancer. Use a right frequency for diabetes. That's going to detox the sugar in your body, but be warned, one of the videos I've showed, or at least shared before in one of my previous videos, that one can significantly decrease your sugar level. So just be wary on how often you use that. And then use a frequency for blood cleanse. Those are the three categories that you would want to do that in. The reason why you want to handle the cancer is because the cancer is one of the things that is causing problems for you to heal in the first place. But if you deal with that first and you deteriorate some of that, and then you start to heal afterwards, you actually start to see tremendous amounts of results. I wouldn't be surprised if that makes sense that they would do that. They wouldn't label it under as code as the C19, because if they did, then it wouldn't fit the narrative as to where they're trying to go with it. Oh, this is a perfect shot. I hope you guys can see that. They got some really beautiful birds out here. In case you're wondering about the it's running. In case you're wondering about the feather coating that they have, it's like a shade of midnight black with a very, very dark shade of turquoise blue. It's literally the most beautiful color I've ever seen.
What's that got to do with delusion and deception? Because y'all still think they're right. Right. You still think that what the smart folks say is right. And Stevie Wonder could see. I'm not against, hear my heart, y'all. So when I talk about these things, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. And really what I'm saying to you isn't whether you're vaccinated or not. That's immaterial to me. I just want to let you know what spirit has been released. And you know it's delusional, because delusional people don't know that they are deluded.
All right, pay attention, because this is what I was talking about earlier. How you got folks out here playing off as crisis actors, right? But at the same time, the same program that they're working for is basically raising up the middle finger to them when they do a lot of this ill stuff. Whenever they call in the geoengineering, as well as the stuff that what they're doing with the water supply, and it ain't even just that, man. They're putting this stuff even in the food and in the beverages too. I believe the category for this is labeled under something known as domestic quail, so you guys can look that up. But I believe I've already shared that video, but I don't know if they took it down or not.
They don't believe they've been deceived. You can't convince somebody who's been deceived that they've been deceived. You can't. They can't see it. But it's so obvious. The only reason I'm bringing the vaccine up is it's just intuitively obvious. They've been lying to you. The media won't let you talk against it. Why? They won't report on truth. Colin Powell, when he died, Colin Powell was vaccinated. They blew over that like it was nothing. They just talk about Colin, but ain't nobody saying or emphasizing the fact that he was fully vaccinated. And then what do? We just, oh well. Only reason I'm teaching this. We are of a different. If you got vaccinated, I bless you. I'm not up here cursing you. I don't want you feeling bad. I don't want you getting uncomfortable. Don't get so mad that you say, I'm taking my ball and going home. Because you'll miss something. You'll miss something. The world is tripping. And I don't get it. I mean, masses of people are buying into the lie. Buying into it. Yep. I told you, it's like this thing is like Starbucks. Give me 2 vax and a booster. This thing is like Starbucks, but nobody here. And I'm telling you something. People are questioning it, and you got to ask yourself, why aren't these things being reported? Why are they? You know, one of the guy named Robert Malone. Robert Malone. He was one of the ones that invented the technology for the vaccine. And he has been coming out saying they need to stop because we don't know enough about the effects yet. You know what they did? Took him off of Twitter, YouTube, took him off. And he invented it. And they're saying he's spreading misinformation and he invented it. So when I see stuff like that, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then church is setting up COVID test sites. Don't be looking for no site here. You better go to Walgreens. It ain't happening up in here. Just ain't gonna do it. They've asked us to. No. When that Surgeon General, I read that article, the Surgeon General just kind of tickled me. Yeah, I'm double vaxxed, got a booster, tested positive, and I got a runny nose, my muscles ache, got a sore throat. I said, sound like a cold. And that vaccine ain't suppressing nothing severe. Sound like a okay. Why did the kingdom come to the earth? Matthew 9:35. You can tell I'm slightly passionate. Because, now the reason I'm passionate about this is Satan is smart.
I don't know if they're doing that through V2K or if they're sending crisis actors to act a script like that out, but they have done something similar to my targeting before. So I'm not saying like record yourself directly, but record, you know, what you're doing in your perception, as long as it's nothing personal. And if they're using any type of verbal cues that is trying to accuse you of doing something wrong, right? You can use that to basically debunk the bullshit of which they're playing out. So in this case, they would accuse me of doing something I wasn't doing, and this would try to label me off as a homosexual, right? I know I'm nothing like that. I don't really care if a person is like that. That's their business, right? So I'm like, okay, if this is the game they want to play, instead of trying to catch them in the act, I basically record what was going on in my perception. So whenever they played out these tactics, all I said was, well, you know, you hear what they're saying, but you can clearly, blatantly see I'm not doing what they're saying I'm doing. I'm just minding my own business. So where is the incentive for them to act that way coming from? And I'm going to tell you where that's coming from. That's coming from a third party who's hiding around in the areas, who's surveying the area from a distance. They're sending these agents in the area to act out a falsified narrative to support a lie under false pretenses. And the question is, you know, I'm not doing anything. I'm not harming anybody. I'm not harming myself. So, you know, where's all this hate coming from? Where's all this, you know, really, you know, where's all this interest coming from, right? And even if I was, why would they even give a damn? Why care? And I'm gonna tell you something that they did that made absolutely no sense. There was a guy who was around the area who actually was like that, and they kind of basically screwed themselves over in this situation because they were making it a problematic event, trying to say, well, this guy's this, he's, you know, he's a problem, he's a problem. But they weren't saying shit about the person who actually was like that. No. So that it started to make more sense. It's just bullshit. The whole thing's just bullshit. You know, they'll complain about somebody else when a person who's obviously not doing anything because it fits the narrative. It's as long as it fits the narrative, as long as it's pushing for something of interest under false pretenses and they feel like they can get away with it, they're gonna go for it. But when you start calling them out and you start making enough sense to where it actually shows that they're lying, oh, they'll back off in a heartbeat. They'll immediately back off. Just like when I called up, they would basically come up with a scripted event for disruption. They partially backed off from that too. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to do it later on.
He's very smart. Now, he ain't too smart because he went up against God. But if you just go from an intellectual perspective, intellectually, he's smart because he knows what it takes to influence the masses. Now, the thing with the
okay, Scott, the thing about that is they're trying. Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure you get where I'm going with this. They send actors to where you're at to try to push a bullshit narrative that isn't true. They bombard you and isolate you with people who are doing nothing but speaking negativity, right? But those people are full of shit because there are other folks out there who would disagree with them in literally within a split second. They would tell them, no, you are wrong. You are coming off of delusion. You are coming off of lies. You are not speaking the truth. And if anything, what gives them the right to make that decision for another person? Now, here's the thing, because I don't make fun of folks because it's, you know, I'm not like that. But I see so much potential on how much I can just easily roast the hell out of them. It's just that easy. I could literally say, why are you so concerned of where my private part is going under your own knowledge? You know, why would they have that on their mind? You know, right? I could make that assumption. Like, why do you care? Why are you so interested in where my junk is, you know, is going, right? If that's under their knowledge that it's been there. It hasn't, but they're sure making a big deal out of my private parts, right? I mean, that's coming from them. So I mean, like that's very questionable. Why would they be so interested in that? I mean, 9 times out of 10, usually it's exactly what you're thinking. They're just interested, but they're using psychological warfare and they're using gaslighting to try to convert you into that. Basically, the whole area of this is just an attack on masculinity. That's just what it is. When you see folks who act like that and do that to other folks who are trying to basically demasculate you or something like that by trying to pull your sexuality into question and under a lie, they're just attacking masculinity. And that says a lot about that person because it shows that they have, like I said before, they have a lack of self-respect because they're choosing to act like that. I have respect for myself. It's not that I'm against finding a woman. It's not that I'm against trying to go out there and date, but I'm taking necessary precautions to protect myself because quite frankly, and I believe I speak for everybody on this matter, folks have proven time and time again that a majority of folks just can't fucking be trusted. So, I mean, so what? I'm going to go out there and just basically date any random person who could be a potential perpetrator who's going to most likely, you know, get within my comfort zone, start effing everything up, open basically a door while I'm sleeping, letting them assholes in, doing whatever they're going to do while I'm asleep. No, No, ain't gonna happen. No. And it's not to say that there aren't any good women out there. I mean, there are female TIs, but at the same time, you know, we got, if it comes to that, you got to come to an understanding that these people are going to do whatever they can to try to get you separated. They're going to try to do everything they can to try to get you isolated. They're going to fill your head with lies. They're going to fill you with deceitfulness, with bullshit. And they're going to try anything that they can out of the book to deceive you. And the truth of the matter is, you must not be deceived from that. They want you to be suspicious of folks who are trying to help you, but they want folks who are actively perpetrating against you to be trusted. That's probably true. That's probably true. But at the same time, I'm not going to go out of my way and basically make that my business, because I'm not interested to find out about that. I mean, if that's what a person is, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. But don't go around trying to basically, you just label everybody, because that's just thinking like a damn machine. That's just trying to label somebody based off something. Half the stuff that they've been doing doesn't even make any sense. I talked about how they'll attack my legs with this technology, right? And then off of that, it was like, oh, well, look how he walks. He's gay. Makes no damn sense. So is everybody who walks with a cane like that? I mean, they got kids. Is a person who has broken their leg, just because they break their leg, does that make any sense? And this is what this pastor's talking about. People are freaking delusional. They are delusional. Half the stuff they have to say makes no sense because it's nonsense. It has zero sense behind it. It's a complete weak argument that's easily dismantled by the truth. It's hilarious as to how weak it is. It's pathetic. It truly is freaking pathetic. It honestly is. And the fact that people can laugh as if like they actually are getting somewhere with it is just completely ridiculous. It just baffles me how ridiculous it is. It truly is. But I don't go that level with them though. I could, but there were times where I did, and every time I even have anything to say, they get pissed off. They get mad. They always get mad. And I'm just like, well, your behavior called for this to happen. If you didn't want it to happen, why even invite it in the first place? Why? This doesn't make sense.
The thing with this whole COVID thing, the COVID demon was released so that the stage can be set for the entrance of the Antichrist.
Before actually, no, wait, let me let them talk. Hold up.
That's the truth. The Antichrist cannot lead the world unless the world trusts and follows him. So how do you get the masses to submit to government? Fear. Fear. Scare the bejesus out of them. Scare them. If you scare them enough, they'll do whatever you tell them to. Amen? They'll do whatever you say because they are. Guarantee you there'll be another variant that comes up before election time.
Yeah, that's definitely the right way to go about things. If you have equipment for counter surveillance, just let that do the work, but make sure it's in a position to where like you don't have to fumble around with it. It's set, or it's already preset, and it's able to catch everything, and you can just go about your day without worrying about anything. There was actually in fact, I think I have it now, but I'm not going to pull it out the bag. This thing is incredibly tiny, but you can and its remote is basically off of a keychain, right? You could have this thing embedded in your clothes, and it would basically catch everything that's happening within your depending on where you got it facing. And it's up to around 1080p, and it comes with 2 battery packs too. They recommend you to actually have like one of those rechargeable stations that you can buy for your phone, something like that, and then just have the USB plugged into that over time. Getting something like that that's more hidden, less inconspicuous, that really doesn't stand out, it allows you to remain undercover under the public's eye, so that they don't know, so that folks don't know you're recording. But the point is, if you make it blatantly obvious that you're recording, you're going to end up missing out on some potentially good footage, which is why it's best to try to make it basically disguise whenever you are recording and whenever you're not recording. That is the best tactic of getting crucial evidence whenever they act out. Because with me, I've been getting so much that if they see me make a move just like that, they'll stop. They'll stop just like that because I make too much sense. I make way too much sense out of what they're doing and exactly why they're doing it. The fact of the matter is, you got harassment on one end that's going on, and it's not the fact that it happens once, it's the fact that it's happening a consistent amount of times. It's something that's repetitive. And if I'm walking out of a store, there it is. And if I'm getting ready to make my arrival to somewhere, there it is. If I'm getting ready to basically go on a route, it is specifically designed to be within my view space of that route. So the consistency, the timing, the fact that it's happening, the fact that I can call it out and it still happens it all basically gives me credibility of what I'm basically, making the point of. Now, one of the things I do, since technically I'm in Texas, they have a law passed where you can walk around with basically a blade legally, right? You can do that. And it doesn't matter what size the blade is. I've got one right here strapped to the side, right? A while ago, there was a guy I believe I still had the video footage of this, if I'm not mistaken. They had a guy walk out and he tried to start up a fight, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy trying to do? I knew what he was doing. What he was doing was trying to slow me down from going to work. That's what he was doing. In most cases, he was either trying to get me to probably draw it or whatever, so he can basically, try to turn around and play victim. Again, there it is again, road dogging. So there was either that or something else that he was trying to do. I knew he was wasting my time, so I ended up just telling, dude, you are not worth my time, and I just walked off. It's just that simple. But here's the thing. This thing, I'm gonna show you guys this blade. This is a big ass blade. I'm not joking. Look at this. I'm gonna even it so you guys can see it. This damn thing is no joke. That would fuck somebody up real good. No, not kidding. This guy approaches me like that, and I'm like, he can clearly, I made it so you can clearly see the thing. I never drew the blade, but you can easily see it, right? You can easily see that I'm strapped with this thing. So I'm like, what does that make any sense? Why would a person try to provoke somebody who's armed? Think about it. That is just a random occurrence. People just don't show up and do that. That was an orchestrated event. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to get into was.
Y'all, welcome back. I'm Van.
I wish I could actually find that video, but yeah, they took that video down. Well, matter of fact, maybe I can just search for it. I hope they got it insert. Okay, looks like I'm gonna have to go to Google for this because I can't find it anywhere on YouTube. And it's funny because it's supposed to be on YouTube. One of the other things that they try to do, I get some folks have filed for disability, and there's a problem. This even that's like a double-sided blade. On one hand, you got a steady income coming in, but on the other hand, basically what you've done is discredited yourself in this case. And in most cases, I guess some folks can't really deal with the struggle. I guess, it's understandable. Some we're all over the years, man, we're getting old, dude. We really are. All of us are over time. I can't imagine how the next generation is going to be able to deal with any of this because they're practically going to be forced to have to deal with it. Let's just look at it how it is. They're going to have to at some point. This is something that unexpectedly happens. I think this heavily. If you all have heard the song called "Mr. Roboto," there's a lyric in there that clearly revolves around what I'm getting at. It's just the man whose circumstances went beyond their control, basically, if that makes sense. And that's exactly what this is. These are circumstances that have invaded into our lives and has obsessively made it a point to always be the key centerpiece of our life. It's almost like if you take this from a religious perspective, it's almost as if like God has already chosen who is to enter. And at some point, folks who are already effed over, and it's more like life is a lesson, right? But it's within itself is a deception. It's like God chose folks, but in reality, He's actually testing everybody to see, what if I give you the impression that you weren't chosen? What is your choice after that? Are you going to choose to do wrong, or are you going to try to choose to do right with the time you have left? And basically, instead of seeking to take vengeance out of somebody through a malicious intent, are you going to achieve to try to earn retribution through your actions? It's kind of like that kind of lesson. But what have we seen thus late? It's been folks who have just basically shilled out, folks who have just basically chose the easy way. Okay. Okay, there it is. I hope I can find a video on this. No, looks like this is just an article. I know there's a video about this somewhere. Yep, found it. I found it. Got it.
Hey guys, Zen from Moms Across America here with huge news. We sent off.
That's the name of the website, by the way, in case you guys are wondering. It's called Moms Across America.
43 samples from school lunches, moms and dads and students from all across the country, and we tested them for glyphosate, 220 pesticides, 108 different veterinary drugs and hormones, a whole slew of heavy metals and nutrients. And guess what, folks? Our school lunches are toxic. The government is allowing the poisoning of our children at schools. The levels were crazy. 95% of the school lunches were positive for glyphosate. 74% of them were positive for some other type of harmful pesticide. There were like 29 different harmful pesticides in the food. There were high levels of hormones, and the heavy metals were off the charts. 100% of them had high levels of heavy metals. Some of them, about 60.
Scott, that was too funny, man. Damn. But it honestly does. It does feel like that, though. It really does. It's like it's almost like being a celebrity being hounded by paparazzi 24, undercover paparazzi 24/7, but it's more negative than positive.
6,900 times higher than what the EPA allows in water. So check out the results on momsacrossamerica.org and share it with your friends.
What's up, everybody?
Okay, wait, no, I'll play that again. But yeah, there you go. That's the name of the website, Moms Across America. That's just what was stated, that there's several families finding this. Like I said, I don't have kids of my own, but if you have any, I would not trust that. I think some parents have actually started to homeschool their own kids nowadays because it's being made apparent that these places that are supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing are not doing what they need to be doing. One prime example of this, did you know they took the Pledge of Allegiance out of the schools? Yeah, they've actually taken that out. I've noticed this even when I started attending school too, because this happened several years ago, back when I was in, I think it was high school, and it was like sometime when I first started middle school, right? That I actually started, every morning we would do the Pledge of Allegiance. After that, shortly after, it was just non-existent. Some of the other middle schools I attended, it just wasn't even happening anymore. They just don't do it anymore. And then when I did some research, I found out that they actually used to have the church in with the schools. Did you know that? Yeah. Some schools actually were connected with the church. A lot of stuff has changed, man. A lot of stuff has changed. I think there was something else I wanted to cover. I just got to find it. Let me see. I think, now I remember. The other thing I wanted to cover on this live stream was the event that happened with the Gulf of Mexico. If you guys haven't heard about that, it was a guy who claimed that was one dude who claimed it was a rare event that occurs. And it was a guy who also claimed that it was something that has never happened before. So I don't know what to think about that. What happened was, I think they call it Hurricane Isle or something like that. They called it. It was a hurricane that went through, but what it did was it sucked a majority of the water out of the Gulf of a large portion of the water out of the Gulf of Mexico. So much that a couple miles down from the pier, it's just all land. Yeah, that's true. One of the things of which they're mostly, as far as attacks go, what they're doing is they're attacking masculinity, and they're not just attacking men's masculinity, they're also attacking a woman's femininity too. They're doing this kind of attack on both sides. So, in other words, what they're trying to do is they're trying to have more dudes posed off as women, and they're trying to have more women posed off as dudes. They're basically pretty much doing the reverse here. They're trying to do away with families and stuff like that. Basically, they really are doing away with that, and they're not doing anybody any justice. I mean, have you heard that they actually are trying to invent synthetic-based wombs? I'm not kidding. They actually are making that. I guess the whole, saying of a test tube baby is actually a lot more real than ever now. It's ridiculous. See what he got on a Plain Truth 16. Okay, that's why I didn't see it. It wasn't on a Plain Truth 11, but a Plain Truth 16. That's why I didn't see it. Actually, yeah, I have seen that, right? It was one vehicle that had like 4 propellers around it. It had like 4 propellers on each corner. And it was a guy who was actually flying this thing around. All right, take care, Empowered. Having trouble finding this darn thing. But you see, that's just it. A lot of this technology they're inventing, right? A lot of this integrated technology that's supposed to connect the human brain to a machine, so that people, you've all probably seen it. It's to where folks can control machines with their thoughts. The problem with that is, what is it possible for someone to get into that, reprogram it so it can do the reverse, to where the technology is actually controlling that person? And you see, they always highlight the good parts of technology, while they always highlight the pros, but they always leave out the cons when it comes to this stuff. They always do this. That is true. Some folks have found out that there are people with hidden lineages of royalty, and that at some point, I think it's like that royalty was either usurped, and at some point, some folks are in those positions who weren't supposed to be there. I'm not too entirely certain on that, but when it comes right down to it, a lot of this stuff, a lot of this corruption, all leads back into many different proceedings back in history. Trying to figure out here. I think I got something around here I could play for you guys. Oh wait. No, I've already went over a project for Veritas's videos. That part's already done. But that was interesting though, wasn't it? Like, you had actual people who were in positions of power, and they openly admitted to hiring people, and not only hiring them, but training them, even revealing exactly where these people are coming from too. So you got it coming out straight out the horse's mouth, yet people still seek to try to debunk the whole thing. All right. There is a particular video I'm trying to find, but I'm having no luck at finding it. Maybe this will help.
Supporting operation.
But wait, just for the record, remember what I called out at the beginning of this video? Was I wrong? Was I wrong for calling that out? And did it not happen? Okay.
Process. Every other organization, past and present, fight against support so that they may know that they are being appreciated. You cannot pick up the newspaper every day, just see something in terms of judges.
Well, since I showed the blade, I guess I should show the other one too. Just so it's aware, I carry the non-lethal too. Yeah. Gotta be safe in these times. But that's a pretty damn good combination though. You got the blinder and then you got the cutter. So that's definitely a really good combination. There was a vet who told me about that's a good combination of self-defense. Because 9 times out of 10, by the way these operations take place, you don't know what the person's intentions are. You don't know what they're planning on doing, but you can tell based off the narrative actions that clearly it's not good.
And when Nigerians pretend and say, oh, what is the difference?
Well, it's just like I stated before. Some of the things he was doing, right? When they would send these people to him, and just so you can see for yourself, they'll send these people out to act out. They'll do that. They'll send these people out, and it highly depends upon how you respond to them. What he was doing was catching. Nappy caught so much evidence that should be a done deal. That should be it. But the fact that they're undermining that, you can tell that there's clearly corruption there. So if there's anybody out there who, let's say family-wise, they should look at that and be able to tell, some of this stuff ain't right. Something stinks about this. Something's clearly not right. So the question is, where's this influence coming from for folks to act out? Where's that coming from? Did someone pay them off? Did someone hire you? Did someone do this or that? Because that's clearly the case. No one just doesn't show up out of the blue and act out. That just doesn't happen. Nobody just doesn't get in their head saying, hey, I'm just going to wake up one day and go around over here and fuck with this person. That does not happen, especially to people they shouldn't know. Do you know certain people? Because if you do, wouldn't that also admit to being a stalker? How should a person claim to know me, right, when I haven't necessarily met a certain person? And I don't mean just know you based off the channel that I made. I'm talking about indirectly knowing details, stuff like that. Stuff like that stands out. So it gets right down to it. Okay, so the people they send are comfortable with working with stalkers. That's just plain and simple. They're down and dirty with the communist agenda. That's all it is. When they show up and they act out, that's just who they are. That's the role that they're filling, and that's exactly what they've chose. That's all there is to it. Oh, Rose did join. Hey, Rose, how's it going? But anyway, let's get right back to this.
Slime latent vaccine being expressed by the meat where the beneficiaries of corruption. So they are undergoing the pains of having to earn their living rather than
Wait, I think this was a guy that was highly involved in the what was that? I forgot his name. I forgot his freaking name, but I'm definitely gonna look for that video because that fits for this situation well. What he said, I could tell you guys exactly what it is that he said, but I'm gonna let him say it himself. You see, here's the thing that you should do. If they want to act out, let them. Let it be the evidence to basically prove your claim. Let it give you credibility, and leave it at that. Don't get mad. Don't get upset. Just let it be the proof that you need to expose this stuff for what it is. Just shine a light on it. Just give me a second. I'm gonna find that video. I'm gonna find it. I got it here somewhere. That's the wrong video. Hold up. Man, where did I put that video? Yep, found it. This is the video I was talking about. It should be loud enough. It should be loud.
I'm talking about something very specific. Not all targets go through this. Now I'm going to talk about the program that many targets are put through. I'm talking about something very specific. Not all targets go through this. But the tools used in this program are used against virtually all targets. So, what is it? It's a program, a highly deceptive multi-year program. I call it deceptive because it often looks like something completely different. It might look like you've deeply offended someone who sent his entire social network after you, but that's not what it is. It might look like you're a victim of an extremely vicious and secret smear campaign, but that's not it either. Maybe you think the police are sending people after you, or maybe you think criminal gangs are harassing.
Before I let this play any further, just keep in mind scripted conversation and the merits to trigger irritation. That's all I'm going to say. Scripted conversation to trigger merits of irritation, basically being relayed to via third party. That's just what it is.
Harassing you. Or maybe you think it's Stasi-like secret police messing with your life. Maybe you've read about COINTELPRO, and that seems kind of like what it is. What I'm talking about looks like these things. It might incorporate elements of some of these things, but it isn't any of these things. It's something that can be disguised as any of these things, but it's something different, something pretty new. Now, I don't want to downplay the claims of stalking at the hands of several people. Stalking by groups of people is something that happens. You'll hear about this sometimes. A man might take turns with his buddies harassing an ex-girlfriend. That's a thing. It happens. But what I'm talking about is something qualitatively different. It's not stalking. It's something else. What this is, in essence, is a virtually untraceable takedown program. It's very hard to fight, partly because the program looks a lot like mental illness, and partly because you're being harassed in ways that you...
It's not just the person being targeted, but they use the people they hire as scapegoats too. If stuff gets to the wrong attention, who do you think is going to basically take the blame for that? It ain't going to be the people who hired them, I guarantee you that much. But people still are stupid enough to work for them. But if they want to find out the hard way, I mean, who am I to stop them? I'm just basically relaying the truth as it is.
That you don't want to disclose to other people. It's made very embarrassing on purpose. There are several possible entry points and several possible outcomes. Since it's highly psychological, how things turn out depend at least partly on the inclinations of the subject.
Which brings me to my point. Based on the behavior that's being scripted in your environment, the perpetrators, the crisis actors who they put in place, to obviously try to trigger you, irritate you, do all of these scripted events. It highly depends upon how you react to those proceedings happening. They can send a perpetrator here. You think I'm going to give two shits about that? No, I'm not going to do shit. I'm going to sit right here, continue promoting the truth as planned, and that's it. If someone gets stupid, hey, I've got self-protection for that. You want to go ahead and basically make that mistake? I'm not out here looking to cause any harm to nobody or cause no trouble. But if a person chooses to make that one mistake, just understand they put themselves there. I didn't go out of my way putting them in that position. Someone orchestrated for those people to show up. Someone gave them the script. They chose to act out the script for whatever money or whatever crap that they're getting paid off to do. And that's just the bottom line to it. That's just all it is. I have no interest in committing harm to anybody. I sit right here today minding my own business. And that's the truth.
Also, what I'm about to describe doesn't explain everything. There are other secret programs which people on the receiving end of this program are very likely to be caught up in. And to make things more complicated, once someone gets taken down with this program, he might get enrolled in those other programs, things like weapons testing or medical experiments. If a target has been painted as crazy, the authorities can get away with a lot. And so
that brings me to another point that which I mentioned before. They'll try to get you or talk you into filing for Social Security and labeling yourself off mentally ill. If you do that, even though you have a steady income, they're going to be able to get away with a lot more deceptive action than they weren't able to before. And they also will be able to have you in a position where you can't own a gun. So if you notice the behavior that I've noticed when I had one back when, first off, when I purchased mine, I didn't tell nobody about it, okay? But you could tell if you saw the behavior, because I still have it recorded, you could tell that the people were acting off of a script. Again, this is road dogging once more. They were acting as if they were in fear for their lives, but I had no interest in causing harm onto anybody. I had no means of doing that. I had no interest in. The only interest I had was just to leave, just to move. That's it. That was it. They didn't want me to move, so they sent folks out there to act as if their life were in danger in such a way. I never raised my voice when I had a conversation with. I'm calling this person out too. It was a cousin of mine that they got involved with this and his buddy. They drove me to this suspicious. This happened after I had left the apartment, I believe, that I was staying in. So I ended up having to leave a lot of my stuff there because there were so many orchestrated events that was dedicated to preventing me from leaving. Because when I say leave, I mean, I was ready. I said F society, dude. I was ready to just go out there, make a raft, and then traverse the whole ocean, and I didn't care. If it came to food, I was going to grow it. Fuck the grocery store, fuck the system, fuck the government, fuck all that bullshit. It just didn't matter to me at that point. I just did not care. I did not care. I didn't give a damn. And I was going to literally do that. I honestly was all set. But all these scripted events all played out. They want to basically keep you isolated. They want you to hear their bullshit lies, but they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to leave. They don't want you to escape. They want you to hear all of this toxified garbage that they have to spill out left and right. And that's all it is. You know something? Maybe I'm tired of having to hear your negativity. Nobody wants to hear negativity on a daily basis. Nobody wants to hear, how much of a piece of shit you're trying to make me out to seem like. That gets tiring. It gets old. And the narratives of which they're coming out with, it's old. It's not making any sense. It's just dumb at this point. It's just repetitive. It's just downright evil. Because in the end, it doesn't have to make sense. They're just trying to sabotage somebody's life, and that's just it. So I'm going to make even more sense than I'm making now. people who portray this behavior, are you okay with this type of behavior being advertised to a younger generation? Think about what you're doing to a person now, and then think about the type of environment that you're making it okay for your children to basically be going through in the next years to come. Think about that. You think any implications of what a person's actions are not going to have an impact on the future? You be dead wrong. You be dead wrong. But here's the thing, maybe people don't care. Maybe they actually don't give a damn that they actually are advocating for a communist type of environment for their children in the near future. Maybe they just don't care. But that says a lot about their type of characteristics, right? That says a lot about that. That truly does. Again, they can sit there and get mad at me, but you don't see me participating in this bullshit. You don't see me doing it. Let's continue.
And sometimes the program drives people to try to kill the people they perceive to be attacking them. I don't condone this, but I understand what's going through a subject's mind when he acts out this way. The whole process is threatening, it's infuriating, or humiliating, or a combination of the three. So here's a broad outline of the whole program. At some point, you're put under surveillance. You're not told about this part. It could be years before the whole thing becomes obvious. A pretty common entry point is at step 1. In this step, which is optional, you're presented with a credible threat. Someone or some group of people who has a reason to be after you. It has to be credible. This is your own personal false flag operation, which is going to send you on a wild goose chase for years. So you have to believe the threat. The most believable kind of threat is going to involve money or property. That's an obvious motivation, especially if the amount at stake is large. Certain kinds of conflicts, usually involving money or property, can be seen coming years in advance. But it doesn't have to start like that. It could be you get into an online argument. Somehow they find out who you are in real life, or so it seems. Or maybe you snub a person in public, and so on. Your imagination at this stage is your worst enemy. You're inventing explanations in your mind to explain how it all started. Just remember, things aren't what they seem. Another entry point, things can start here, is step 2. It's very disturbing even without an obvious threat. What I'm talking about are a series of psychological operations in which you're made aware that things are going on behind your back which are unfavorable to you. It could be minor stuff, like evidence someone's coming by your place when you're not around. Again, your imagination runs wild. If you enter the program in the previous phase, you're obviously going to connect those happenings to the paths that you were provided with in the first phase. Around this time, you're also going to be made aware you're under surveillance. Someone might casually mention very personal details taken from your private activities just a few hours beforehand.
This could lead into scripted conversation, as I mentioned before. It's scripted because the information relayed to the perpetrators who are put within the environment are basically getting information via the third party who's surveilling from a distance. So just saying, if anything unusual takes place, just understand that was orchestrated by a third party. Any type of violent tendencies that tend to basically take place, because I'm not a violent person. I'm not trying to incite violence, not advocating it. I do advocate self-defense. That's a whole different story. But anything negative like that, under those pretenses, just understand that's coming from a third party. The list of involvement goes from both government, military, the police department, and then below all of that, you've got your private contractors, you've got your neighborhood watch, and then you've got your ordinary citizens who they basically just hire up off the street. That's usually how the whole chain of command goes from. So, along with all of this, Congress, it's pretty obvious to tell that Congress is fully involved in a lot of this stuff. It is. Along with all of that, there is an incentive to try to make the subject of whoever it is that they're targeting to make it look mentally ill, right? Now, why would they want to do something like that? And keep in mind, a regular citizen does not have any credibility to make anything like that to call an average citizen mentally ill. And I'm gonna ask the obvious question: does that person have any type of schooling in that to make such an assessment? Do they even have the proper licensing for that? No, they don't. So clearly, you can't take nothing from such a person like that seriously. But the script would try to lure you to someone who does have those credentials to probably make false claims on certain situations if you let them. This is why it's important not to trust certain environments, but to also understand certain situations that take place when it comes to just ordinary citizens who they just send in your environment. But here's the thing. All of this stuff is orchestrated under false flags. All of it is. Most folks would call this gang stalking, but the real name is actually threat assessment teams. That's the real name for it. You see, they hide this stuff under certain legal ways of doing it, with under the lie that a certain person is a threat or a potential threat, when it really, in reality, is not the case. And then they put it under a non-investigative subject so that their crimes would go unnoticed. So the fact when you got people doing weapons testing, drug testing, any of this stuff, human trafficking, all this ill-begotten crap that's going on, it's just going to go unnoticed by those who actually would do something about it. That's all it is. It's just a complete lie. So when you see folks involved in stuff like this, just understand it's either they're fully deluded, they don't know exactly what they're fully getting themselves into, and they want to believe that they do. But you couldn't be more wrong. You have, honestly, this is coming from me to them. You have no idea what you're getting yourself involved in. You can act and be as prideful as you want to, because that's exactly where that naivete is coming from. It's coming from pride. And that pride is going to put them in danger. I may not mean any harm, but how many people did they got them basically running these operations on? How many folks have they basically targeted with the same script? You think none of them aren't going to do anything at some point? Are you insane? You have to be the most unreasonable person to believe that that's just how it's going to be. And the proof of this are these key events to where you have these mass shootings. These are orchestrated events. They're orchestrated because of the same psychological operations that they've ran on the people. So can we also basically make the assumptions maybe the folks involved in this, either they don't fully grasp the scenarios of what they're involved in, or maybe they just don't give a damn. And usually that's the mentality that they fed everybody through the media. It's more for themselves and less for everybody else. As long, money talks, bullshit walks. But let me tell you, that is a dehumanizing way of living. That is a dehumanizing way of thinking, because you start to lower your values when it comes to money. You start to lower that of which would make you more human when it comes to something like that. And there has been a saying, money is the root of all evil. It is, because it's been known to drive folks to do things of which they wouldn't normally do. And lo and behold, look at what's going on.
Again, your mind makes the connection. Here's a great example of what I'm talking about. Let's say you go out to the porch one morning when you wake up and see an empty styrofoam coffee cup on the top step. This happens several mornings in a row. Obviously, someone is coming to your house every morning and leaving a cup there. One morning you decide to get up really early and see if you can catch them. You check the porch and there's nothing there.
Because there was advanced surveillance going on prior to your current position into where the area where it was the initial action was going to take place. This also ties into what I said before. They'll do current surveillance where you're currently at, and then they'll do advanced surveillance to where you're going to be at, right? So you see the video that I'm making, right? Basically exposing truth, and what happens as a result, disruption, as I called it out before. The sole purpose of the disruption was to see if I was going to basically engage. I said it for them to hear. I'm not doing jack. You can tell your bitch or boss I ain't doing jack. And you can tell them I said it. My words directly. I just called your boss a bitch. Plain and simple. And I tell you this much, they don't like that. They don't like any of that. The whole point is to make the person seem delusional, but at the same time, you see, I'm basically making assessments. I'm playing videos. I'm reacting to the video, giving my key points to that. Right? Is there supposed to be something wrong with that? No, there's nothing wrong with that. But the key point of why certain behaviors are taking place, why certain things are happening so randomly, because they're just orchestrated events. And I'm calling the presence out as to what the narrative is for. The point is to distract, deflect, and that's all there is to it. It wants to shift. Wait, Nazi serial killer is the political correct term. They are assassins. Yeah, that is true. That has happened. But I think that's been happening is because there's just been this overabundance of truth that has just been revealed. So now they're growing in fear of that. You see how weak this is? How they would send folks out there and plant them to make because a single person is such a threat to them. You see how ridiculous that is? All you have to do is to speak the truth. And it pisses them off severely. It does so much that they would go out of their way, hire folks, even train them to be provocateurs and act out. So what would you call the scenario of what's just happened here? You would call that, and he hasn't gotten to that topic yet, but you would call that a space invasion, right? That's a space invasion phase. They're trying to get you to move somewhere. They're trying to get you to go somewhere else. That's another deceptive tactic that they use on people that some folks don't catch on to. They're trying to get you to move everywhere so you spend all your damn money. So you don't save up, so that you don't do anything right with it. Something that's actually going to put you in a better position of defending yourself instead. You see, this is the whole structure of the system. They want the public to remain in poverty for themselves to remain in control. That's exactly what it is. They want them to remain in control. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. They want those people to remain in power. And just because, and don't think differently of this. Just because they sent, one, distractors or whatever, don't think they won't do it again. It'll happen again. It will. The point is, do not engage, do not respond, do not be provoked. The whole purpose as to why they showed up, the whole purpose as to why they act out, the whole purpose as to why they're following a script is exactly that. It's to get you to engage, to follow through a script that they have already simulated to basically work along with deceiving you, to get you to deceive yourself. That is the sole purpose as to why they're there. That is the sole purpose as to why they're there. Do not be fooled. Do not allow your emotions to basically guide your fist. Do not allow yourself to be weak-minded like them. Instead, be the opposite. You see people advertising how trashy their behavior is. Be the example that needs to be shown. Be better than that. Be 10 times better than that. And if they get pissed off, it's not your fault because they chose to act the way that they did.
Oh well, so you do some chores, then you head out for the day, and your heart stops. There's a styrofoam coffee cup on the roof of your car. That's an example of sensitization. You've been made aware that the coffee cup in this example is significant. Sensitization of some sort is going to happen during this phase, so you're made aware that messages can be sent to you non-verbally with subtle cues in your environment. At this point, you've been made aware of the fact that you're being watched, and someone or some group of people is messing with you. Stuff is happening behind your back. Another thing that can happen behind your back, gaslighting. Objects aren't in their expected places when you look for them. And finally, you're made aware that large numbers of people are interested in keeping tabs on you. Quite a few people. You're getting vehicles that show up wherever you go, or people who show up on foot wherever you go. Step 3. Now a new, very threatening message is sent. Large numbers of people. This is a message that's being conveyed to you. It's only a message, but it's very convincing. Are not only keeping tabs on you, but they're watching you and don't like what they see. This is going to be hammered home with a handful of exceptional episodes, demonstrations of hostility which seem very sincere. Those demonstrations are very manipulative. You're supposed to remember them and file everything you see in the hostility box. So you're going to get commentary on your private actions at this point from lots of people, sometimes in real time. Not necessarily to your face. There might be well-timed car alarms or explosions in the distance, and so on. Step 4, an extreme harassment episode. Okay, this builds on all the previous phases. You've been made aware that lots of people are watching you, they're hostile to you, and they're speaking to you through this secret language. Now things take a terrifying turn. You get an extreme harassment episode involving hundreds of people, sometimes in a single day, in a highly coordinated way. But because you've been prepared to recognize what I would call covert signs of aggression.
Keep in mind, all of that is just it's all deception. It's all a smoke screen. This is reverting back to what I was talking about before. Like, okay, if they're doing the geoengineering, everybody's exposed to that. If they're doing the domestic quell, if you've drunk Coca-Cola, if you drunk Pepsi, any of that stuff, right, that most likely has that stuff in it, people are going to be exposed to that. They have the technology to jump in and out of people. This is my main point when I'm talking about how technology has converted over into such a way to where they're trying to use it for brain interface. They're trying to literally heighten the effects of AI as well as brain interface technologies to where you can control technology just with the mere thought. But if you can control technology with the mere thought, and they're using this technology to actually put thoughts in people's heads, psychotronic weapons and whatnot, right? Wouldn't you also say that you could use that same technology to control a person? And it starts to make sense. They're updating technology so that it may learn off of human behavior as well as be able to control humans in the future. That's exactly where this whole thing is headed. And if you need further proof of that, well, just look at the research and development of a lot of stuff that's out there. They put the stuff out there in your face. Even some anime scenes that really bugged the crap out of me when I seen it. Some of you, if you have watched anime before, you probably heard of Sword Art Online. Okay, so during the beginning of this anime, I believe it was the very first episode, a lot of people who are playing this MMORPG, right? They're getting these headsets or whatever, and that's very similar to a VR headset. The developer created to where it would force the users to remain in those things, and if those headsets were ever taken off, they would die. It had something to do with some sort of short circuit explosion that was going to take place if the headsets were ever removed. Problem is, there's clearly signs of corruption are not being addressed there. Usually when a product goes through processing, you think they would see something like that, right? You would think that they would notice something like that, but you mean to tell me they've allowed it to happen? It's weird. And it's the same thing. It's kind of like the same thing with the CDC. Like, they've been having a lot of strange stuff where they just let it pass. It's like they're banning actual medicines, but they're elite. They're making healing substances legal, and certain other substances were really helpful to people. They just made it into some sort of, they converted it into some sort of drug. So, they can immediately basically put a ban on the plant entirely. I'm speaking, of course, of cocaine. The plant, not the actual drug, but the plant has significant healing properties to it. But let's see. See you guys going to work on stereos. Peace out. All right, later, Matrix. But the plant has significant healing properties, but then you got this drug that got invented, and now the whole thing's outlawed. If you pay attention to how the shoes were made several years ago to how they're made now, I mean, yeah, they're somewhat more comfortable, but the shoes from the past actually had it a way to where you're able to be still grounded to the ground, as well as being able to be somewhat comfortable. But you don't see copper in shoes anymore. Instead, you got to basically do it. It's got to be like more of a do it yourself, or buy shoes that were just modified that way, which are probably expensive. And most of them don't really look that good. You figured they would do that for boots, but I find it kind of strange how they haven't created a market for that yet. What else? It's other things besides that too. Has anybody ever noticed that a lot of things that exist today seems at least to be a little bit too convenient for this program? Or am I just the only one who noticed that? They come up with with smartphones, right? But the smartphones have a camera in the front as well as the back. You see a photograph of Mark Zuckerberg basically having his laptop lens taped off, hinting that people do have the ability to actually see through things. This is why, if you didn't know before, you know now, always tape off your lens, because that could very well happen. One of the other things to keep in mind about is that I think it's through developer mode. What you can do is go through there. If you activate that, you got to find your build number in your phone first. Click that a couple number of times, and then you will unlock a hidden menu known as developer mode, right? It's hidden for a reason. If you didn't update to Android 12 and you're still on Android 11 software, what you can do is go to the developer options, go under to, in fact, let me see if I can find it now. I have to think about it. You would go under the development options, but in order to get to build number, you would go to about phone. Then you want to go to quick settings and developer tiles. You're going to see an option there that's called turn sensors off. What this would do, I believe, it disables the GPS, the track, the stuff that they use to track you. It disables the camera, and it disables the audio of, or should I say the mic of your phone. It disables that. I did that. I used that feature for a phone that I recently bought, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. They sent a guy out there, someone who was in their car. It was like a white SUV or some sort of unusual vehicle, right? And I kid you not, this dude pulled up on the side of the road right in front of me, and he was driving forward, stopped, he drove back, stopped, and he just kept doing that repeatedly over and over and over again. The second time I did it, they had this person in a beige colored vehicle pull up the minute I did it, because it was, they were there, but they weren't doing anything. They was just sitting there. I suppose that's the tactic known as space invasion. The main reason as to why they show up and bombard you is to try to annoy you, irritate you, get you irritated, to get you to either move or leave, or get you to act out and get aggressive with them. And then they'll play off as well, like, they're not doing anything. Do not fall for that deceitful tactic. Do not fall for that. But yeah, that's one way to basically block them off. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend you look into that now because that actually prevents them from spying on you. One of the other things, if you use Brave browser and you actually update to their premium and you use their tracker blocker, can you believe this? The actual I got a VPN from the Play Store, but Brave revealed to me that that VPN was sending trackers. Can you believe that? The actual not the Brave VPN, but the actual VPN from an app off the App Store was allowing trackers. Can you believe that? So every one of those trackers got identified shortly after. Let me see if I can find some bird life around. Doesn't seem like the birds are around. I think all that noise that people had going on kind of scared them. But yeah, the actual VPN, dude, the actual VPN from the App Store was actually having trackers on it. And I didn't think much of it. I was wondering, like, what were some folks talking about, right? Like, because they were saying, like, you can't trust all VPNs because some of them allow trackers to spy it, trying to basically disguise, your location and whatnot. And the thing is, when you have folks who are trying to say, well, what do you have to hide? It ain't that. It ain't so much as you having something to hide. It's just the fact that you got folks who are desperately tracking you, trying to, it's just like trying to treat you as if you're like livestock, trying to tag and track, find out where you are so they can put you under more harassing events. And the thing is, you need that breathing. I'm trying to go on. Oh, okay, that was Scott. All right, later, Scott. But that's the whole thing about it, right? So let's see what else I can find here. Did I hit 3? No, I haven't hit 3 yet. I think I'm gonna keep going until I hit to 2:30 because this stream has really been going on for a while. I didn't even think I was gonna go on for like almost 3 hours, but damn. Oh, no way. I hope that's untrue. There was something else that Chicago, freaking Illinois, Chicago. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I got family out there. But I don't know if either of you even have family out there who lives up yourself, but Chicago, Illinois, people in Congress there, they're trying to get something passed that is called the Safety Act or something like that. But I'm not gonna go into detail about it. I'm gonna just basically play a video so you guys can hear that all for yourself. This thing doesn't go in effect until at least 2023. Let's see if I can find that video somewhere. There was I think it was either the sheriff or an officer who was talking about that, and even he disagreed with what they were trying to pass. But the whole thing about it, what it was going to do was actually do away with the the cash? I believe they call that the bailout system. That's what it was going to do. Man, where is that darn video? It's got to be here somewhere. Guess I got to go back to Google again. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Man. Wait, where's the video at? It should be somewhere. There it is.
As of January 1st, 2023, the following things will go into effect, and people need to be aware of this. It abolishes cash bail for almost every offense. This includes, but isn't limited to, kidnapping, armed robbery, second-degree murder, drug-induced homicide, aggravated DUI, threatening a public official, and aggravated fleeing and eluding. Offenders released on electronic monitoring have to be in violation for 48 hours before law enforcement can act. They can almost drive to Alaska before we can even look for them. It denies victims their constitutional rights. And keep this in mind, businesses and homeowners. Officers will no longer be able to remove trespassers from your residence or your businesses. Someone could decide to live in your shed, and all we can do is give them a ticket. You have to decide what level of force is required to remove them and whether or not it's legal. This is a massive threat to the residents of Orland Park, Cook County, and Illinois.
So there you have it. That's exactly what I was getting at. That is supposed to be. I'm pretty certain they're not going to let that happen, but they're trying to have that pass by at least sometime as soon as 2023 hits. But that dude, man, yeah, that's going to cause major problems because it's just like as he was saying, you know, someone's on your property causing problems, but you would have to do it yourself, right? So whatever you do, and it turns out to be unlawful to remove that person, well, at that point, you'll get railroaded in the system to where, you know, we're already seeing how corrupted the whole thing is. So it shouldn't be, you know, any obvious than that. Anyway, we already hit 2:30, so I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. Have a wonderful Sunday to everybody. And remember, even if they send these crisis actors out, do not react, do not respond, do not engage. Understand the whole purpose as to why they showed up is to try to get you to react. Wait a minute.